Okay. So again, congratulations, everyone. Congratulations to those who will be benefited from this particular presentation of mine that talks about mixed methods and qualitative research design. So this is me with the Eudoxia USA, and also course. Well, I'm having difficulties with a beat because of the heavy air, too much wind in the Philippines. So that is why internet connection is a bit staggered. Okay. Can you see my PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, madam. So I always start my presentation again with my own quotation, and it goes something like this. Effective and efficient decisions derived from the quality process of collecting information. This is exactly what I want to emphasize here in my presentation, because we have to come up with a very good result of a research combining two different types of two different methods or methodology, otherwise validating one by the other method. So we are supposed to be effective and efficient in making decisions that would definitely derive from quality process. And the quality process is identifying what should be the right and appropriate method to be used. So basically, in collecting information, which is necessary to be able to solve problems at hand of those who are conducting research. And whatever the results will definitely benefiting a certain group of people, especially the organization wherein the person himself as a researcher or group of researchers came from. So that is why we are supposed to identify methods. So the objectives of today's presentations are the following. The first one is understand the importance of qualitative research design. So I'll be presenting the different types of research methodology and research designs. Otherwise, qualitative as the focus. Number two, qualify and intensively recognize the value of qualitative research. It is because the intense and in-depth analysis are always derived from the quality of the information that the researcher would definitely collect from the respondents, from his or her own observation, and also, of course, in participating in the conduct of research. Number three, and the last one, is mutilate the mixed method from general concepts of qualitative research. And I have also included the critically analyze the different types of mixed method. So what most probably the different types of mixed method, of which we will be discussing one by one. So again, understand the importance of qualitative research design, qualify and intensively recognize the value of qualitative research. Third, mutilate the mixed method from general concepts of qualitative research, the individual qualitative design, and also, of course, critically analyze the different types of mixed method. So let us try to consider this figure. Research design. Hobbies, what type of research design should we use? I think we should use Pearson's correlative coefficient tests if it is focused on the quantitative aspects. But when we are talking here of qualitative, it depends on the description. It depends on the qualitative data, the information at hand. It is not numerically presented. Okay, so commonly used qualitative designs are the following. The first one is phenomenological design, of which the present scenario, this is focused on what is existing. Number two, grounded theory approach. It has something to do with what we call values of symbols, basically used by the researchers to be able to derive a particular output. Ethnographic design is another one. which is basic among a certain group of community, society, or any group that would definitely delineate from the other groups. The next one is historical design. Historical in a sense that we will be only based on what is in the manuscript, what is in the book, what has been written, what has been done in the previous years. Also, of course, case study. It could either be the mixture of the historical design and also, of course, phenomenological design. It is basically used in applying in an organizational research, of which the profitability of the organization is always the focus, specifically when it comes to business operation, economic situation, behavioral situation, etc. So another one is critical social theory. It has something to do with the principles of a certain nation, of which focusing on the activities of the government in relation to economic condition, economic operations, and also of course, the behavioral problems of the people within a certain community. The next one is philosophical inquiry. Those are something to do with the philosophies of those people, of which patterned and identified by a certain community. The next one is analytical design. It has something to do with the process of measuring the pros and the cons. It has something to do with what is the appropriate and what is not appropriate for the organization. So the next one is feminist design. This is the newest, to be more specific. Feminist design has something to do with the behavior of the female, the women, the girls, etc. It is more focused on the situations of which equality is always the name of the game. And the last one, the next one is narrative analysis. It has something to do with what has been written or what should be written. And also, of course, what has been experienced by those people. That is why they have written their experiences. And the last one is triangulation. This is where the focus of the mixed method should be given more weight. It is because triangulation, by definition of triangulation derived from the triangle, it is a basic process of cross-validating the method that has been used by two different methods. One is checking, the other one is invalidating. One is invalidating, the second one is checking. So what are these phenomenological design? So these are the types of qualitative research. Phenomenological design or phenomenology is both a philosophy and research method. Take note, a philosophy of which standardized by those people who have created that principle. The purpose of phenomenological research is to describe experiences or phenomena as they are lived. So basic on the behavior, basic on the action, basic on how the people interact with each other within a certain community, within a certain social community, within a certain group of people. So what is happening now is the focus of phenomenological design. Phenomenological structure has something to do with what is going on at present time. So you can easily identify how these people behave, how these people think, how these people project, how these people interact. So it focuses on individuals' interpretations of their experiences and the way in which they express them. So basically on how they interpret things. It also of course, on how they perform the assigned tasks. Let's say, for example, in an operations of a business, customer service or customer relation, how these people within the organization interact with these customers or consumers. So this is exactly what is going on at present time. So the researcher's task is to describe phenomenon as they experienced and expressed, what they have observed, what they have experienced, what they have put into one aspect. Let's say behavior, let's say attitude, let's say intelligence, let's say knowledge. So the way the people execute things as interpreted based on the existing policies. Bracketing is the suspensions of the research preconceptions, prejudices, and beliefs so that they do not interfere with or influences their descriptions of the respondent's experience. So the task is only interpreting what is on hand, what are the data or information at hand. So therefore, you are not supposed as a researcher to put your idea, to put what you have experienced, but it is dependent on how you have observed, on how you will be interpreting based on the information at hand. So variations of phenomenological designs. First, descriptive phenomenology of Edmund Russell, focus on the experience itself. This is based on the visual, the activities of the people that experienced by the researcher. You are not supposed to interpret based on your understanding, based on your interpretation, but it is dependent on what the activities of the peoples are. So the next one is Interpretative Epidemiology of Martin Hagen. It focuses on the meaning of the experience. It rejects the notion of bracketing because one cannot separate description from one's own interpretation. So interpretative phenomenology of Martin Hager, it means that you are supposed to include what you have experienced, but not based on your understanding and your knowledge. It is based on what you have experienced. So according to Martin Heidegger, it focuses on the meaning of experience. The meaning itself is very important. That is why it rejects the notions of bracketing, because one cannot separate descriptions from his own interpretation. It is because that exactly what you have experienced. So your interpretation be based on what you are experiencing. So the next one is ethnographic design. Ethnography is a form of research focusing on sociology of meaning through close field observations of sociocultural phenomenon. So ethnography has something to do with the characteristics and behaviors of the people within a certain community, let's say cultural minority, or even urban community could be part of this ethnographic design. Do not just interpret as is the word ethnography. So of words, ethnic is one of the focus of this ethnographic design. But how about the urban people, the urban community? Do you think it is possible to use this ethnographic design? Yes, because of the present and the latest trends. Behaviorally, the way they project, the way they dress, and the way they communicate. So this is also an ethnographic, which is innovative in a sense. So every organization, every group, or every community are also parts of ethnographic design. So it literally means portrait of people. So it means what you have seen from a certain community could be possibly part of the ethnographic design as qualitative research method. Why? It is because these people behave differently from the other community. So that is why they have their uniqueness on their own, with their own, and for their own. So there is the two people are alike, and no two people, no two organizations are alike. So therefore, they have their own distinct characteristics. That is why ethnographic. So it literally means portrait of a people. So an ethnography is a written description of a particular culture, the customs, beliefs, and behavior based on information collected through field work. So there is no exemption when it comes to ethnographic design. It is because your community, whether it is urban or rural, have the same concepts when it comes to ethnography. But the only difference is what is the present conditions of these people, how a particular custom or beliefs and behavior are projected by the people within the community. Or else, if you cannot be with these people, you have to leave a certain community because your projection is different from the common people within a certain community. So another one is the grounded theory. It is an inductive research technique developed by Glacier and Strauss in 1967. Inductive, what does it mean by inductive? From the micro going to the macro. From the macro going to micro. It has something to do with what? Accumulating all the information to design a bigger picture. So grounded means that the theory developed from the research is based on or has its roots in the data from which it was derived. It is because you are supposed to go down deeper or you have to find the grassroots. That is why grounded theory. It means that from the very particular going to a bigger picture. So another one, it involves a way to transcend experience, to move it from a description of what is happening to understanding the process by which it happens. So it is always answering the question, how? That most of the research method and research design doesn't include the question how. So it means the how and the why are the most focus of the grounded theory. Why these things happen. So you are supposed to find the root causes. So that's exactly what the grounded theory is all about. Sorry for the internet connection. Okay, so another one is the critical social theory. Critical social theory is a social theory oriented toward critiquing and changing society as a whole, in contrast to traditional theory oriented only to understanding or explaining it. So critical, getting the pros and the cons, and also, of course, the pro and against a particular customs and even tradition or even behavior of the people or even the policy could be possibly part of the critical social theory. It has something to do with the conflict in between its members and also, of course, in between nation to nation. So that is why the behavior of the people also involved in analyzing the social problems or phenomenon. It is a social theory oriented toward critiquing and changing society from the underdeveloped to a more or highly developed concept of a certain group of people that sometimes cultures, traditions, practices are already gone because they focus on what should be getting ahead of us. That exactly the critical social theory is all about. So it was first defined by Marx Hockenmeyer of the Frankfurt School of Social Sciences in 1937. It is radical and emancipatory. So take note of the word radical. It has something to do with the focus of attention should be derived from what is existing. And also, of course, it has something to do with how a certain community developed to a certain extent. So that is why social science, social theory, it has something to do with a certain community, a group of people that operates on the same wavelength. So critical theorists believe that all knowledge is considered as value-laden and shaped by historic, social, political, gender, and economic condition. Look at the factors that would definitely the areas of which researchers should focus. How the historic account changes the lives of the people, the lifestyle of the people, the behavior of the people, and also, of course, forgetting the culture where they came from. Another one is social, a certain community or society that changes over time. That will be based on the political concept, the leadership of those who are administrators of a certain community or a certain nation or a certain country. Because a country which is governed by a certain policy as implemented by those who are administrators, elected, if not elected, appointed by the people, are basically affecting them because what has been established as a policy or as a law, people are being affected. So therefore, political has something to do with the behaviors of the people. Also, of course, the gender. Gender is a very good issue wherein critical social theory should focus on, theorists should focus on. Why? It is because gender is by choice. It is not biologically differentiate male from female. It is just a matter of choice and a matter of preference of a person. So nowadays we have the LGBTQ plus around the globe, which is acceptable already among the people and beginning to be accepted by all people across the globe. Yes, there is always machismo or machism, of which men should rule against all gender. And another one is economic condition. It depends on the economic policy of a certain administrators, those who lead, those who manage a certain community. So sometimes they focus on tax collection. And sometimes the leaders focus on infrastructure. So it depends really. That is why it is very important to come up with a critical social theory to be able to measure the pros and the cons of the present administrators or the present policies or those who are in the policy group or making bodies, such as the lawyers, also, of course, those who are considered policymakers, the senators, if it is bicameral, the senators and the congressmen. And also, of course, in some other organization, that depends on the government as ruled by a certain principles by Karl Marx or other form of government. It depends. Again, you cannot control those people who manage a certain nation because they believe that because of their supporters, advisors, legal advisors, economic advisors, all advisors, their own basis. So that is why you cannot question the leadership of a certain person who are in a position. But then all you have to do is to come up with this critical issue for these people to open their eyes and minds. So the next one is it creates that serves to oppress particular groups by limiting the options available to them. So that is why there's a lot of people who keeps on coming out from the closet to be able to voice out what they have experienced and to share sentiments across members of a society. And oppressive structure can be changed by exposing hidden power imbalances and by assisting individuals, groups, or communities to empower themselves to take action, specifically religious institutions, which is very critical in nature, by nature. It is because it involves a community of leaders who, by power vested in them, have established their leadership capability. Okay, so the researchers need to construct a picture of society that exposes the prevailing system of domination, expresses the contradictions, and embedded in the domination, assesses the society's potential for emancipatory change, and criticizes the system in order to promote the change. It is only happened if there is what we call freedom of the people. If there is no freedom among the people within a certain community, critical social theory is not made, will not be made possible. It is because you are being oppressed by the government. You are being oppressed by the kind of policy the government has. So we can only use this critical social theory if there is what we call freedom of expression. Your rights to express, your right to share information with others. But if there is no right at all for the people to experience this kind of situations, it is very impossible to create and conduct critical social researches. Another one is case study. It is basically made for a specific group of people, like business, like economics or industry, or any organization. So it involves an extensive exploration of a single unit of a study, such as person, family, group, community, or institution, or a very small number of subjects who are examined intensively, like what I have done, the case study of a person with cognitive disability. It is an exploratory research under case study, of which identifying, studying, observing, giving some instruction for this person to follow and exactly record every changes that will take effect on that particular subject. So it could either be a person, single person, an institution, single institution, or an industry as a group, or a community, let's say barangay, or a certain town, or a certain city, or even an institution of a very small group of people, sharing the same principle, sharing the same policy, etc. It may have both quantitative and qualitative elements. Yes, and the case study, specifically if it is more on profitability. But if it is more on the policy implementation, yes, you could possibly fall and conduct qualitative aspects or qualitative research. Used for rare, interesting, or representative cases. Like, for example, the case that a certain a community wherein COVID-19 have started. So case study is one among the applicable research design. and the qualitative. And the next one is historical design. Historical design is the systematic collection and critical evaluations of data relating to the past occurrences. Yes, the history, which is very important. Whatever in the journal, whatever in the history, whatever in the book, whatever in the record should be used and be utilized to be able to make some courses of actions. Let's say, for example, the non-achievement of profitability action. So, what most probably the reason? If you will be creating some sort of forecasting, what will happen to the behavior of the people if they have not even experienced attaining a certain objective or attaining a certain target? Once that you will be introducing a very good strategy, which is derived from your own data. So external criticism, authenticity, and genuineness of data. Yes. How true is the data? And how will you qualify if the data is correct? Especially the entry of the information. Who made the entry? That is one among the questions under the historical design. So you have to prove your worth as a historian. Another one is internal criticism, worthiness or truthfulness of data in relation to critical external criticism, the authenticity. Who enter the information? Who handles the information? And who verify the information? Those are the drawbacks when it comes to the historical design. Most probably, before they create a book, or before they create a data or information, they have to verify everything. So go back to the grassroots and find out if it is true or correct. So that is why most organizations are having accounting or auditor to be able to verify the worthiness of the data or the truthfulness of the data entry, the information, the discussion, the description, and even the explanation. Does the explanation appear to be truthful when it comes to the data entry, etc.? So internal criticism, worthiness of the truthfulness of the data. And another one is philosophical inquiry. It is an intellectual analysis to clarify meanings, makes values manifest, identify ethics, and study the nature of the knowledge. Like, for example, the ISO principle. So ISO is a philosophy. It is a way of life of those people who believed in quality. So whether it is a quality of the people, is it the quality of the system, or is it the quality of the product, is it the quality of the information, etc. Those are policy. The way people react, the way people behave, the way people change their perception. It is because a certain organization are implementing a certain philosophical values. So how true is the philosophy of a certain community? How true is the philosophy of a certain organization, etc.? So philosophical orientation, it is considered as an idea or issue from all perspectives through extensive literature review, examining concepts, raising questions, proposing answers, and suggesting the implications of those answers. So that is a philosophical orientation. So it could either be everything, but it will take time. So try to consider only the concept, examining the concept, whether it is applicable across. Like, for example, the theory of Maslow. So before, in the 1960s, it is only 5 levels. The first one is satisfying the need, the basic need. 2, realization. But nowadays, in the 1990s, they included three different concepts or three different needs, which is a philosophical inquiry, of which verifying what is lacking from the original concept or from the original theory, the philosophy made by Maslow hierarchy or Maslow, the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Let's say we have the cognitive, we have also, of course, aesthetics, and we have also transcendence. These are the three things based on the research that have injected aesthetic, that all of us would like to appear beautiful, appealing in front of the many, in front of the people, especially the teachers, because commonly the students are looking at the faces of those who are sharing their information. So how could I possibly share something and for other people to believe if I am not that appealing to other people? So that talks about aesthetic. The second one is cognitive. It has something to do with the mind. It has something to do with the intelligence. It has something to do with the knowledge. Yes, you are satisfying your basic, but once that you have done this level, the fifth level, you have to have your talent. You have to have your intelligence. How can you be promoted to a certain position if you do not have the knowledge and information? So that is why we continuously attending information generation or activities like seminars, like lecture, like conferences, and even professional education. We are all done with this professional education stage. That most of us want to become doctorate degree holders. So that exactly the intuition and the inclusion of the cognitive aspect to the Maslow hierarchy of needs. The third one, which is injected, which is the highest, than self-actualization. When we are talking of self-actualization, you have reached already all the position. You have already your satisfaction. But you will be leaving the soonest. And no one could stay constant on earth. So therefore, you need someone to continue what you have just started. And that is exactly what we meant by transcendence need. You have to have your protege to continue what you have started, to continue and supply the information to other people who continuously conducting research to maintain your status in the industry. Let's say, for example, business. So continue the business to a certain extent, 100 years, 200 years, etc. Why some organizations exist still? It is because they have trained the right person based on the knowledge, styles, techniques, strategies, and even the capability of the person to be on top of the organization. What will happen to your organization if you do not have the trainee? Nothing will happen. And eventually, you will experience bankruptcy. So that exactly what we meant by philosophical inquiry. The next one is analytical design. The purpose of analytical displays of information is to assist thinking about evidence. It has something to do with constructed to serve the fundamental cognitive task in reasoning about evidence. As what I've said in the presentations of the topics to be discussed today, based on the identified qualitative research design. Analytical has something to do with the pros and the cons, the cause and the effect, the reasons, etc. So it describes the data, making comparisons, understanding causality, assessing credibility of data, and analysis. That's analytical design. So does the logic of design replicates the logic of analysis? Design reasoning emulates evidence reasoning. So it means that your analysis should be supported by the information, or the information will be the basis for your analysis, and vice versa. So another one is narrative analysis. It is the qualitative means. It is the qualitative means of formally analyzing text, including stories. So you are supposed to interpret what has been shared with your respondents. Let's say the interviewee, or those who have experienced a certain scenario, problems, issues, concern, etc. Like what had happened when the one of the dangerous volcano in the Philippines have erupted last 2020. If you really intend to know what are the experiences of those people when they are still running out of time to cover from the asphalt, from the rot of the nature. So whatever given to you, what information has given to you by a certain person or group of people will be the information that you will be analyzing, and you will be perfectly narrate the story. And that is a narrative analysis. So the narrative analysis can focus on social action embedded in the text or examine the effect of the story. It is just a way of analyzing the information, whether there is a reality or the falseness of the information. Stories serve a purpose. So another one is the feminist research. Feminist research is based on the premise that gender is a central construct in a society that privileges men and marginalizes women. It seeks to equalize power relations by using a broad range of methodologies. Let's say, for example, in education, what is the role of the female teachers, administrators in an organization? Why there is always a success when an organization or educational organization is basically led by a woman. It is because of what? According to a certain research of ours, because they only show their motherhood thing in running the organization, because they know how to handle difficult people. And that exactly why most of the people in the educational institutions are female and even run by female or run by women. It is because they are using their hearts, interpreting what is in their minds. Okay? So the mixed method, this is the focus of our attention, of which all the qualitative research must be combined together. Two or more methods are possible. So mixed methods are the research is the research strategy to combine two or more methodologies to enhance the results of the study by way of cross-validating every detail of the data on hand. So let's say, for example, grounded theory and narrative design. So all you have to do is to validate based on the written documents, etc. And even that particular mixed method falls under triangulation. And the triangulation means it is the combined use of two or more theories, methods, data sources, investigators, or analysis methods in the study of the same phenomenon. So that exactly validating or invalidating the other method, which is the focus of today's attentions across the globe. This is one among the areas of which intensifying the existing data, wherein most common use of triangulation is a combination of qualitative and quantitative. Quantitative means statistically prepared. But if you know something deeper, you have to apply qualitative research design to be able to measure the why and the how this data is statistically arrived at. So triangulation. So what it was first used by Campbell and Fisk in 1959. So the triangulations, we have the different types of triangulations. The first one is data triangulation. Involves the collections of data from multiple sources for the same study. The data must all have the same foci or the focus. So let's say, for example, so using the quantitative and qualitative. But how about qualitative, wherein the focus of attention is that mixed method in qualitative design? So meaning that we will be applying two different types of or different methods, qualitative methods. Let's say, for example, phenomenological study and ethnographic research. How could possibly the present scenario be affected by the ethnographic, which is also the present scenario? So therefore, the study or the data must all have the same foci. So meaning the present scenario. Of words, your phenomenological study focusing on what is existing, and ethnography has something to do with the behavior of the people, existing people within a certain community. So therefore, they have the same foci. So the next one is investigator triangulation, meaning two different researchers on the same focus. Let's say more on COVID-19. So most probably the COVID-19 has different areas. Let's say, for example, on the vaccination. So that is why each country have their own inventions or formulation, like AstraZeneca and Pfizer. So they have their own dosages, but simply focusing on what aspect? To create or to build immunity or immune system among the hosts or the people, to be more specific. Two or more investigators with diverse research training backgrounds examine the same phenomenon. Exactly, that is why there is a what we call variation when it comes to vaccine. So the same focus, the two-factor theory when it comes to behavior or needs of the person, and the what we called Maslow hierarchy of needs. So they can be used to be able to validate if Maslow hierarchy of needs focus on the need. Two-factor theory are also focusing on the need. So therefore, you can use it and try to find out what will be the result. Triangulations of two different qualitative research design. Another one is methodological triangulation. Use of two or more research instruments in a single study. There are variations for the use of this method, yes. But the question is, how can we unify these two different methods as what other triangulation or types of triangulation have established? They have the same focus of foci, or the focus is on that aspect, the same aspect. So there are variations for the use of this method, but the focus is common to both methods. Methodological triangulation used two or more research methods in a single study. There are variations for the use of these methods. And variations of methodological triangulations are the following. Within method, used when the phenomenon under study is multi-dimensional. So meaning there's a lot of variables that you have considered. So therefore, multi-dimensional. So let's say, for example, one dimension you are supposed to apply two different methods. Let's say narrative and case study. So that is within. So if you have established first dimension, second dimension, third dimension, or the first phase, second phase, third phase of your research. So you could possibly use multiple methodology. So another one is, as an example, 2 or 3 quantitative instruments used to measure the same phenomenon, or 2 or more qualitative instruments are used to be able to validate the foci or the result of your research. Number 2, within method, combining research strategies from 2 or more research traditions in the same study. One is survey, the second one is focus group discussion, or the third one is interview. So let's eliminate this survey because it focuses on quantitative, but there are also survey focused on descriptive. But let's talk about the last two, which is basic on the focus group discussion, and the second one is interview. Hello. Okay, anyway, other variations, sequential, methodological, triangulation. One method follows the other method. Let's say, for example, phenomenological and historical. So what is existing and what has been written. So sequential. So you are verifying what has been done in the previous years and what is existing at the present year. So as an example, qualitative, quantitative, quantitative, qualitative. But in the qualitative research design, we have also qualitative 1 and qualitative 2, qualitative 2 and qualitative 3, etc. So another one is simultaneous methodological triangulations. Both methods are done at the same time. This is simultaneous. And we can use that. Like what I have said, triangulation using focus group discussion and interview, or narrative discussion and focus group discussion. So the narrative most probably can be validated using focus group discussion. So another one is analysis triangulation. The same data set is analyzed within the use of 2 or more differing analysis technique to cross-validate the findings. One is with the grounded theory, and the other one is narrative analysis. So most probably you can verify if the narration of those people, if the information of the story of those people could possibly be validating the grounded theory formulated. And the last one is multi-triangulation, a combination of the more than one formation type. So later I'll be discussing one by one. This multi-triangulation, of which 2 or more triangulations are being combined. Like, for example, metaphysical analysis, of which there are more than 2 research results on the same topic and on the same focus. So this is exactly the possible combinations of the triangulations or the mixed method. Phenomenological grounded, phenomenological ethnographic, phenomenological historical, phenomenological case study, phenomenological critical theory, phenomenological philosophical inquiry, phenomenological analytical change, and phenomenological narrative. Another one is grounded ethnographic, grounded historical, grounded case study, grounded critical theory, grounded philosophical inquiry, and a grounded analytical change, which is also grounded narrative. As what I've said a while ago, that grounded can be checked with the narration of those people who participated in your research. The ethnographic and research are possible. It is because ethnography at the present times are basically validated, can be validated by historical data entry. Another one is ethnographic case study, ethnographic critical theory, ethnographic philosophical inquiry. Let's talk about ethnographic case study. Ethnographic, the present scenario of a certain community of which being affected by a certain policy. So therefore, your focus is on the same aspect. So ethnographic philosophical inquiry, ethnographic analytical change, and ethnographic narrative. Another one is historical case study, historical critical theory, historical philosophical inquiry, historical analytical change, and historical narrative. And the last 6 or 8, case study critical theory, case study philosophical inquiry, also course, case study analytical change, case study narrative, and also course, critical theory and philosophical inquiry, critical theory and analytical change, critical theory and narrative, philosophical inquiry, analytical change, philosophical inquiry, narrative change, and analytical change and narrative. So those are the possible combinations of what we called the mixed method under triangulation. And we all know for a fact that triangulation is the focus of the mixed method under qualitative. So it's up to you as a researcher to focus on one aspect. It could either be a combinations of all the different types of qualitative methodologies, and also, of course, the metaphysical analysis, meaning it depends on the outputs of the different researchers focused on the same concept. And that will be all. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Namaste. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon.